Alright, another response video to that stupid... It's not even a response video to him. I'm not even going to give him the dignity of saying it's a response video to him. A.D. Johnson guy. A little snarky son of a bitch. Really. So it starts this video with 2 minutes of redefinition of every word in the English language, which is just idiotic, and calls it philosopher jargon. Like these are the official philosopher dictionary he pulled this crap out of. Look, the point is D.P.R. Jones was talking to ignorant religious people in his video, apparently. I mean, at least that one assumes that's the subject. So I don't think he was using supersonic philosopher language and definitions of words. Now, I think the college dictionary should be good enough. And there's so much premise built into your presumption of this existence of these qualifying subjects and objects. Human beings fit into a weird category, Einstein, because we have an intelligence that is an object. I mean, it's an objective, competent faculty. And we have a subjective self, a desire machine, completely motivated by subjective influences, personal, ones that come from within. Intelligence comes from the external world. It comes from perception and description and nothing else. It's completely made of non-subjective experience, consolidations.
1 + 1 = 3 is a subjective statement that does not also reflect reality, and so we can say that the statement is not objective and therefore false.
Right, so it's about truth and false, and that would be the thing to get down to, is that you are basically saying there's no truth regarding value. There's no definable truth. No reality. It doesn't exist. That's your fucking, ultimately your statement. And here you're mathematical, because I don't use mathematics as an example. I don't need to say there's something else in the universe that's invisible to make my argument. I don't need to do that, because I think even if value was the only invisible entity, the non-material reality, if it was the only non-material reality in the universe, it wouldn't matter to me. It's still a reality. It's still a non-material reality. Real statements, true statements, can be written to describe value. It's a third dimension of relationship. You can have relationship like this finger's next to this finger in proximity. And so that's a describable relationship because you can visualize it, you can symbolize it, you can make it into something. And then there's going to be relationships that have to do with concepts that have no material form, but there's a relationship. It has a character, it has a behavior, it has an entity, an existence that's more than just where it is physically at any one moment in time. It's what it is as a collection, and that's the reality, and that's how sentience is even. You can't have sentience in a frozen universe where all matter is frozen in time and only appreciated for what it is at one single moment. And obviously nothing can be described by a single word or a single image if it is moving through space, if it is moving through time. So right there I can say that is a reality. Experience, time, history is a reality. It obviously doesn't exist as a material thing. History does not exist anymore. But the fact is the events did take place. They did have a reality. And we can talk about it and we can describe it and we can acknowledge its reality, even though it has nothing. It doesn't exist anymore. Idiot.
The mathematical statement 1 + 1 = 2, however, is an example of a subjective statement that is also objectively true.
And it's only objectively true because you've discovered it and you've announced it to be true. You say 1 + 1 = 2. And if you didn't say it, if you didn't create that as the standard, there would be no standard. That's the premise, that 1 + 1 = 2. That's the premise. My premise of the value equation is that it exists. I'm not going to give you the 1 + 1 part. I'm just going to tell you that the math exists. I can tell you the 1 + 1, but I'm not going to go into it. But the point is I can make the argument because I can simply point out that we know value exists. So we know the 1 and the plus sign and the minus sign and the equal sign, we know that the constituents of the equation exist when it comes to value. Because all I have to do is say there's no rational way you can come up with any theory that would change the fact that if a universe had nothing but Holocaust victims in it, just suffering human beings in a horrible state, and another universe had nothing but human beings in a blissful orgy state, that you would be able to compare the difference and say one universe was preferable over the other universe. That if one had to exist, you would be able to choose which one. The value equation would be obvious, indisputable. There would be no rational way you could choose that other one. No rational way could it possibly take place. It is a certain fact that that is the preferable one, that that is the one that contains the greater value, the greater positive benefit. So we know it exists. We know value exists. There's just no fucking doubt about it. And all we have to do now is figure out what the constituents are. What do these variables equal that we have in there? X and Y's of desire and suffering and other things. And we have to do the equation and the math. And all we have now are variables, undefined variables. But there is a truth to those variables. Fucktard.
An apple next to another apple always makes two apples. This is true whether or not a subject thinks that it should morally make seven. Because they have
and it's just based on your premise. Again, you have defined the variables. You've said the one equals this entity of one contained thing. And so now you've defined that variable, and you've defined this. The second one was the same one again. So you're adding two of the same things. But the point is that you can only tell the wrong answer because you know what the right answer is. And you can do the same thing with value.
have a family to feed or whatever. That's because morality, unlike math or logic, is not descriptive, but instead prescriptive.
Oh, this is another one of these bullshit, this asshole philosophy talk where there's somehow a difference. Guess what? A prescription is a description. And often descriptions are prescriptions. If I say your car will not run if you do not put gasoline in it, I'm essentially giving you a prescription for the car running. So if you come to me and say the car doesn't run, why doesn't it run? And I could just say factually to you, cars will not gain forward momentum if you do not put fuel in them. Now, I haven't prescribed anything, I've just described the reality. But implicit in that statement is a prescription, no doubt about it. And I could then also describe a prescription and just say, by all logical standards, it would be wrong not to be right. Okay? Now, that would be a prescription, but it's a description too. So these fucking little crappy lines, this playing with words, you're just playing word games like a Veritas 48 or something. You're just playing a convoluted word game because you're trying to prove bogus bullshit. Value exists external to your fucking subjective opinion. There's absolute fact regarding what is ethical, decent, right, and wrong. That's just the truth. You are either a productive human being or a destructive human being. Alright? That's just the fact. Alright, and we haven't gotten all the details to be able to tell what color each person is. Let's say we do turn a different color. If you were destructive, you were blue, red, and if you were productive, you were green. Alright, throughout your life, in terms of the events and how you interacted with the world. So the world was better off with you, or the world would be better off without you, is the outcome. And maybe if that was just revealed in a color, then we could just sit there and point to it and say, yeah, well, you're red, so you're obviously a negative, so you're a bad thing. And you're green, so you've obviously done human race benefit or sentient life benefit. Yeah, so it could have been really obvious, but it's not really obvious. So we're going to have to argue it, and we're going to have to define it, and we're going to have to describe the variables, and we're going to have to pick at them a little bit to do that. But it's there to be done. The equation exists, and the variables can be defined.
It deals in shoulds and should nots. Moral statements, just like mathematical or logical statements, are subjective. But with math and logic, we could compare the subjective statements people made.
It's just stupid to say moral is subjective. If the morality is based on a principle, a premise established as the premise, like 1 plus 1 equals 2, well then you can go 2 plus 1 can equal to 3, and then you can do further and further and further, and you build on the premise. You build on the premise of even the plus sign, as it allows for the possibility of the equation in the first place. But to make this stupid argument that morality is innately subjective because you say so, and that's the only evidence you have is that you fucking say so, that's all you're doing. You're just saying, I say so. Bullshit.
To an objective reality that exists independent of the subject. The things that math and logic describe can be true or false objectively without the need that subjects exist at all.
Exactly. And so can value, without the need of subjects, okay? So there can be suffering that has no subjective self, in the sense that it has no capacity to contemplate its own existence. It only has capacity to express the feeling, the sensation of pain, but has no experiential identity beyond that sensation of pain.